So, Liam, good to meet you. How do you reflect, first of all, on last week's game at Southampton?
Yeah, excuse me, I watched it back yesterday morning, and probably quite like I felt after the game, to be honest. I thought we were outstanding watching it back first half, restricted them to very little, but we had really good control without the ball. And then I thought we managed regains really well in terms of some good passages where we kept it, but also then some real threat on the counter to create chances, but also moments where we could have created even more if we'd taken a bit more care with the final pass or the final touch. So, and then the timing of the goal makes it so difficult. Then obviously how they want they're quite happy to just keep it. And then obviously the game plan of blocking, frustrating, you have to tweak and change, which 2 minutes in the start of the second half becomes quite difficult to go from that controlled block into trying to press and get after it. So yeah, it was frustrating from that point of view. I think ultimately when you reflect on it, we have to come in ahead at half time.
But some positives you can take into the Norwich game on Sunday.
Yeah, massively. I have to say, like when you look at it first half, and they were very complimentary after the game. The behaviours, the desire to run, the discipline with how we played. The organisation. I thought the lads, executed 99% bang on the money. To be honest, it was that final 1% of sticking in the net, which didn't happen. So a huge amount of positives to take. Again, I think I'm quite clear on where we're at 3 weeks in. You can see now the shape of the organisation is now how do you go from being in that control block to maybe being a bit more aggressive to press higher, and at the same point some of the bits in possession which are progressing are going to take a little bit of time as well, but there's, like I say, small positives for me in terms of seeing the lads transfer some of the stuff we're asking them to do.
And of course Cal Naismith went off in that game. Any news of how he's doing?
Yeah, he's going to be a little while. We're still waiting results, to be fair, and a discussion with a specialist. So he's going to be out for a little bit of time, which is disappointing. But time-wise, I can't give you anything on that yet.
Okay, and what about any other team news you can tell us at this stage?
No, rest obviously. Cam comes back in, obviously, having served his one game, so he's now available. And the rest, to be fair, are all good to go. We had a training group this morning which trained well, and obviously the rest of the lads we're in recovery, and we had a team meeting just now, literally actually about 30 minutes ago, to just to go through some of the video, some of the detail. Ultimately, whether we win, lose or draw, it's about learning and getting better, which is important that we do that and go through that process.
You obviously weren't around when the team played Norwich last. Have you had a chance to assess Norwich? Have you seen any videos of them, of the last game, etc.? Yeah,
we've watched plenty of Norwich, so it's an important part of it. So yeah, I've watched them a couple of times as the other staff. I think it's an important part of that to identify how we how we create our game plan, how we want to get success, how we can hurt them, and at the same point how we can stop their strengths. So yeah, we go into quite a bit of detail of what we need to do.
Yeah, and 2 places above them, 2 points above them as well. There's a bit of pressure on them, isn't there?
I don't know. I don't know what their expectations are. I don't know too much. To be fair, my energy is here and making sure that we do everything we can to go in ready to win on Sunday and make sure that we perform to the level we're capable of. Which I said to the players, if we can hit a level of performance like we did first half, we'll win matches at this level. It's about now making sure that we had the final touch to it. So my energy ultimately is on us.
Yeah, one more from me. Have you got your feet under the table now, as it were?
Yeah, a bit more flow around the building, obviously, developing relationships and familiar with everybody's roles, responsibilities, and, the setup, so, definitely a lot more settled, which, helps. Just, being able to really then put all your energy into, making sure that the players are clear on what they need to do and are prepared to step on the pitch and, and execute.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
You may back this one off a little bit, but is there any extra sort of emotional attachment to this game, given where you're from?
Nah.
Nothing at all?
Nah. I love the city, to be fair. So my family live there, so I have to say it's a really nice part of the world, North Norfolk especially. So yeah, it was actually the first club I had a season ticket at. So I have fond memories of the club in the area, but I moved away, when I was 15, 16. So I moved away so young that, I think in terms of that, no, definitely not.
On the seat, so that was was that during the 90s?
Early 90s, yeah.
Early 90s, so Jeremy Goss, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
European, yeah.
The Bayern Munich game.
Yeah, I remember going there as a kid.
You went to that game?
Those. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So that they're in many ways largely hugely responsible for your kind of passion for the game in some ways, you could say.
Yeah, a little bit. It was so young, do you know what I mean? You only remember snippets of it, to be fair. So I won't reveal who I do support, but they're not them. It's definitely not Norwich. I can tell you that, yeah.
There was something you said earlier in the week, which I meant to follow up and didn't at the time, but it's still relevant, well, will be relevant for the whole season. You did mention about the set pieces and what the work Pat does. And obviously on Wednesday there was Tommy's chance, which came off their flick on the near post in the end. How much focus do you as a coach put on the importance of set pieces?
Yeah, a huge part of the game. I think both boxes, right? I think, it's ultimately a free opportunity for someone to put it into a really dangerous area. So again, I think the organisation, the detail that you go into, I think is massively important. So, like I said previously, Pat's done a terrific job. Been really impressed with Pat since I've come in terms of he'll go through a huge amount of video to try and identify trends, patterns of what they do, and obviously then create plans and structures of the defensive stuff will only be small tweaks in terms of your setup, but especially some of the attacking stuff, being creative with how can we exploit certain areas and weaknesses in their box. So it's a big part of the game. I think at all levels when you look at it, set pieces, the volume of goals, it used to be around 30%, early 30% of total accountable for total goals. So it's a huge part of the game, which you have to make sure that in your programme you dedicate enough time to.
What for you is a good set piece? The one that goes
one
back
that doesn't
in
go
there.
in,
I know,
one that
doesn't go in. But what do you kind of like to see in a good set piece?
I think number one, you can go through all the organisations, the patterns, the setups, but the biggest bit is a real desire to attack it and head it. That's what I mean. You can be as creative as you want. You can do everything, but in both boxes, it's a real desire to put your head on it or put your body on the line to either score or stop a goal. So. Yeah, I think I'm quite simple with certain aspects of it, but again, I think that the connection, the alignment, the timing, and then, like I said, it has to be underpinned by the desire to attack it.
I don't know if there was a clip doing the rounds. I don't know how active you are on social media, but okay. I'm sure someone sent it to you. It was Luke Williams at Notts County who was talking about that. You haven't seen it?
No, I'm not on social media. So
okay, but it was from their fans forum, and it was an interesting. He's obviously formerly of this parish, but it was an interesting sort of debate at Notts County because they get really fed up that they take all their corners short, and he was basically talking about, well, our sort of ethos is about us being on the ball as much as possible as an opposition. A challenge is we're going to be on the ball more than you, and that sort of is a little bit what you're about. But obviously, with the set piece so far here, it's been about delivery. I just wondered sort of what your take is on that different theory to it, like, I don't know, sort of Barcelona 10 years ago was the classic one, wasn't it?
Something comes down to the personnel you've got. So, when you look at a Rob Dickie who's so dominant, especially in attacking boxes, why would you not use the opportunity for that? And of course we want the ball, but we want the ball to attack. So if I can, if the staff can create something where we can, we feel under no pressure, we can put it in an area to attack, then for me we'll do that. So but it also becomes, I think there's elements where it's about becoming a little bit unpredictable as well. If people switch off, is it on to go short? You've seen it with Sykes as well in terms of we have played, the odd one short, where actually if you can, exploit an area, exploit an overload, to change the angle of a cross, which becomes more dangerous to attack. I think the whole end goal ultimately is the same of getting in their box. So how we do that might look different at times, but any opportunity on the set piece, if we can, attack from it, that's the main goal. You
said about the sort of the 30%. Give or take in terms of the City this season is always getting on 50%. I would imagine you want the open play stuff to go up. Would that be reasonable?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that when you look at the game the other night, right, I think it's funny, everybody looks at the XGs now, right, there. Everybody goes off that, but Tommy's one-on-one doesn't even register as anything on the XG because there's no shot, so it doesn't register. So that's again where you have to be a little mindful. Harry's counter-attack at the end where we don't quite square it. Terrific attacking opportunity where you're going. It should lead to a shot, which doesn't register on your XG. So things like that. I think there's so much information now around the game. You have to contextualise it all and make sure you understand it and what you do get, what you don't get. So I think when I look at it in terms of that, the open play stuff, we will look at it. I think it's definitely, you look at QPR, you look at Middlesbrough, and again, you look at the other night, I definitely feel like there's been progress in terms of the areas we're getting into and how we're getting there. And again, I think that's what I want. I want to see the team, I thought it was real good variation. We attacked really well on the counter, but there was also passages, where Sykes' header, if you look at the build-up phase to that, I think we switched it 3 times before actually ending up with a cross and goal. So for me, that's football. Is it counter? Is it keep it? Is it? But with the same end goal of trying to score.
And that Sykes attempt obviously came from George on the right, and he's kind of, whether or not you're aware, sort of previous to, he's been criticised a bit harsh, but there's always been a kind of a will to want him to get on the ball in more advanced positions. Is that something you've kind of worked on with him, or is it a product of where he was on Wednesday that he's naturally going to be that little bit further forward?
Yeah, something to be the shape that we play, the position he took up in possession. So, I think he naturally tended to be the one that provided a little bit more width for us. Especially if you look at the back 5, him being right wing back, tended to be whether it be in transition, Belly running from central, or in build up, he tended to be the wider one with Belly running wide from central. So it was a terrific cross for that. And I also think beyond that, I've been really impressed with George in terms of 1v1 defensively, extremely solid, and just extremely reliable. Which again, I think sometimes everyone's chasing wow moments, but I think what he's shown is such a high level of consistency of his basics that for me that's a huge thing that the team needs.
You mentioned there Sam Bell on the right. That was a notable sort of switch from the left. Is that significant? Which side of the pitch he plays on? Did you want to sort of try? I know he played there for the under-20s during the international break. He's sort of predominantly been on the left during his time here. Am I over analysing it? Does it matter?
I think part of it was the plan. I think some of it's dependent on each game, right? I think when we looked at it with Sykesy playing sort of left wing back, the kind of obviously in that position he'd give us the width from there, and then with George tending to be a slightly more defensive player, is if George stayed under it, you could get Belly given the width. So it's almost a little bit around, just trying to balance out. I think there's so much more than individuals in slots. It's how do they connect? So how does is it right back play with wide right? If you've got an out and out flying winger, you don't necessarily want to really attacking full back behind them. That it's going to take away their strength. So there's some of the bits that we look at in terms of the makeup of the team. How do we hurt them, and then how do we get people in slots and keep balance within that to complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, but find the right balance.
In terms of Mark came off with a bit of fatigue on the Wednesday. How's kind of been the recovery, and how do you see him and maybe Jason Knight and Sam Bell having played in the international, so they would have had the most minutes? How do you kind of see them for Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's we don't have huge numbers, right, to rotate, so I'm fully aware of that as well. So again, I think we have to be sensible, we have to manage it correctly, but again, I think if you look at it, they're actually all quite robust in terms of and what you tend to see. I think their outputs, the types of player they are, is if you look at most of them, we've changed them in game. I think that bit in terms of look at Belly for example, the outputs they have to do physically are very different to a centre back or a centre midfielder. It's a different type of running, a lot more explosive. So they're the bits where we sometimes have to be a little bit careful with overloading them. But at the minute they've recovered well. We've obviously got an incredible facility here that allows us to to really concentrate and do some really good work on recovery. And normally that's the beauty of Championship and English Football League, right? Is that you this week obviously Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, but it's not going to ease off over the Christmas period. So there's that blend of finding the right balance of looking after them, but also sometimes you have to play through it because we need to and want to win games.
Now in game, you talk about in game, so you've sort of told them that they don't always need to run as much as or the high intensity sprints or whatever it is. You've monitored that, and is that what you're getting?
No. Everyone has to max out in game. It's just the demand of a position are slightly different. If you look at it like the counter attacks, for example, it's your wide players that you release to run the depth, whereas you're not asking your centre backs or your centre midfielders to do that. So no, it's definitely not in terms of things we're asking them to do. It's just what the game presents. And if you look at the the data, the type of running centre backs do compared to wingers has always been different. So I think what that then brings is different risks for different positions. So anyone that steps on the pitch has to max out in everything.
You mentioned the squad size there. Kind of how are you finding that in terms of the numbers you've got? Is it an additional challenge?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. It's not ideal, I think, but we knew coming in that there was a few injuries. We obviously weren't fully aware on some of the details on it, but again, I think it's one of those. I tend to not try and waste too much energy on uncontrollables. So of course, energy goes into the ones that are available, the ones that are, we've got, and then making sure that, we keep everybody fit, and the ones that are injured, try to get them back safely, but as soon as possible, because obviously, like I said, we've got a large number out.
You haven't named a full bench in any of the 3 games. Is there anything to that? Is that something you'd like to? Obviously, you'd like to do it. But
You're answering your own questions,
because obviously there are some of the academy kids have filled up the numbers. That sounds terrible and disrespectful to them, but in terms of like boosting up to a 20. But you've elected not to do that. Why?
Oh, we will do at times. I think it is, and again, we speak with Brian obviously constantly every day. I think that. I think there's a blend of providing opportunity, but also earning opportunity, right? And again, I think that's the bit where you want to get the right balance of, and I have to say Jamie and F have done really well. Been really pleased with them in terms of the progress that I've seen in them in the short time we're here. And there'll definitely be more opportunity for some of the other lads. We had Jed this morning with us who trained well. So again, it's like I said, it's that just because the spaces are there, and 9 subs a big number, you don't want to just provide opportunities for maybe people that don't deserve it. So. Again, we speak with the guys closely, and I'm sure there'll be more opportunity for other lads in the future.